Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, this so welcome to Independent Freedom Podcast, where I just shed light on people doing different cool entrepreneurial, creative, innovative stuff in different arenas. And I'm here with Anthony, and he's gonna talk about a few things with him being a venture capitalist and the new app that he started, which is pretty dope. All right, Anthony, could you talk more about being a venture capitalist?
Yeah, sure. So first off, thank you for having me. Like we mentioned off camera, like I really appreciate what you're doing and it's needed. So, again, blessed and honored to be on the show. But yeah, so I guess we could talk a little bit about, my background and how I got into VC. So it's kind of it's a loaded journey. So I mean, I guess we got time, so it is what it is. So my background so my degrees are in biology and chemistry. I was on the pre-med track, so I come from, a medical family. My father's a physician, my mother's a nurse, two of my older sisters are physicians, and like all nurses and doctors, and like cousins as well, like physicians, pharmacists, all that. So my whole life, like that's kind of like, okay, I'm the last born and I'm the only boy in my family. So, coming where we come from, like as the man, you have to, we have to, do certain things. So for me, that's kind of like where I was geared towards my whole life. And, can I see myself being a physician? Of course, but I always had that entrepreneurial itch from like a kid, to the point where we'll do how we used to go trick-or-treating. Like I'll pick out my favorite candy that I like and I'll keep the rest and I'll save it for like a month because I know all the kids, they're going to eat their candy in like a week or two. So I'll save it, bro. I'll tell you. So I'll save it. And like that November or like December, I'll bring my candy to school, sell pieces. So it's been in me, man. It's been in me since I was a kid. So as we go along the roadmap, so I'm pre-med. At the time, I'm working at the surgical at the surgical intensive care unit. Trying to get my applications stuff ready for medical school and all of that or whatever. My older sister, she's a practicing anesthesiologist, and she, came to me with an idea. At the time, like she was working on some consulting services for in the anesthesia space, trying to optimize patients for surgery. And then she had told me that she had shifted that approach, like just because when you do it that way, you're only seeing one patient at a time. So she had shifted her approach from, just being kind of a concierge service to actual like software, data analytics, like actual company. And, I was presenting an idea, she knew that, I was an entrepreneur at heart. She knew that this is something that I would enjoy. And for me, that was the biggest thing, right? Because I knew I liked healthcare, but I also knew I liked business. So up until that point, I never knew that there was a way that you can combine the two in that capacity, right?
Mm-hmm.
So helping her build that startup. So like, we used to, as a part of the founding team for that startup. So that startup is called Pre-Op MD. And
Pre-op
what
MD.
Pre-Op
Okay.
MD. So what Pre-Op MD was, or is, I should say, what it is a preoperative clearance platform, streamlining patients from the pre-op all the way through the post-op process. So providing a lot of different communication, analytical tools, lab tools, just able to, communicate with the care teams and making sure you're as optimized for surgery as possible. Because if we take it a couple of steps back, I used to work in the surgical ICU. So when I would come into work at 7 a.m. in the morning, I'll see 10 or 11 patients ready to be admitted to the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
But, an hour or two would pass by, that 10, 11 now went from like 6 or 7 because for whatever reason, the surgery was either delayed or canceled. Now, from that outside perspective, you're looking at like, okay, cool. But like when we actually do research, you look into it, this is actually a really big problem. It's $1 billion waste, over like billions of dollars waste annually in the U.S. healthcare system. We all know about the healthcare system. We don't have to get into that.
Mm-hmm.
But of waste, and I'm like, okay, so there's actually something there. I'm looking at, how much time It like permitted, it is like every time a case is delayed, so there's actually something there. Doing more research, there's actually companies actually trying to solve this problem. So the proof of concept was there, the product market fit was there, and just how can you do better than your competitors? So that was kind of my first intro into, I guess it's called life science entrepreneurship or entrepreneurship as a whole. So pretty much that's just like healthcare. But the term is called digital health.
Okay.
So and through that role, as and in a startup we wear multiple hats. So I did biz dev, product management, project management, client relations, capital raise, which we'll get into, marketing, market analytics, research, everything.
How many years ago did it start? Let's get curious. How many years ago?
It's 2020. So I'll say I put air quotes. It started, I'll say 2015, 2016-ish. We got serious. 2017. That's when we got serious, like with the technology and software and all that. So yeah, man. I'm working at this company. We're doing amazing things. We're scaling, and so we're at that point now where it's like, okay, we're bootstrapped. So we're like, okay, we're at a point where we don't necessarily need private funding, but we would like to get private. Like you just want to see, kind of gauge if we would be an ideal investment for certain firms. And again, at this point, I wasn't really that knowledgeable about the intricacies of private equity, venture capital. At this point, all I really knew about was like investing, like investment banking. Like I knew like kind of the surface level stuff, but I didn't know like the actual mechanics behind a lot of these different companies or I guess venture financing options, I should say. So we would have meetings with angel investors, some VC funds, and that was really where I was exposed to. I was like, wait, hold on. There's actually like businesses who are focused, or I guess firms whose sole purpose is to invest into healthcare companies, help them scale, of course, exit, but that is their whole mission. So that was the first thing that I noticed, and I looked more into it. I'm like, this is very interesting. The second thing, though, that really kind of drew me to it and made me really want to be a part of it was when we would have these meetings with, VC professionals, angel investors, or whatever. I never saw Black people. Like we had a lot of, meetings, and maybe only one firm was a Black firm.
Wow.
Maybe only one, but even like the analysts, like, cause there's different, leadership roles and stuff like that. But even like the analysts, people that we'd come across, I'm like, man, there's no Black people on the other side. To take it a step further. So, at the time, my company, we were accepted into like an accelerator program. And what an accelerator program is essentially, it's kind of like an incubator for startups to develop their ideas. And we have access to these resources. We have access to, their advisors.
So what type of resources? Like, could you like elaborate with resources?
Sure. So, okay. So let me take it a little bit deeper. So the accelerator that we got accepted into was the TMC X8 Digital Health Cohort. So that's the Texas Medical Center, digital health class. And that specific accelerator was, of course, tailored towards digital health companies. But the whole point of that accelerator was to, number one, develop your idea. So you have access to, so think about it. So it's the entire medical center. So you have, I'm not sure if you're aware, but the Texas Medical Center is one of the biggest, is the biggest like health medical center in the world. Like people flying from all over the world to get their operations and their surgeries. And
I did not know that.
Yeah, it's really big and intricate. So they have so many different hospitals, so many different healthcare systems under their belt. So we would have access to anyone who's affiliated with them. So whether it be leadership, whether it be just all those different types of resources. So like how the program would go is like you would come in that day, you'd have a panel discussion of like, let's say the VP of operations for Houston Methodist, on top of that, like a managing partner at a venture capital firm, you know, and stuff like that. So, and these are all advisors. So these are all people you can have offers, take office hours with, bounce ideas off of. And the whole point is for you to make those connections and create that pipeline of future investment and future like deals and future business. That's really the whole point of what an accelerator is, for lack of a better term. So we were doing that accelerator, and we get there the first day. We were probably, I think 10 or 12 companies. I forgot the number. This was a couple years ago. We get there and we're like, we're the only Black company here. Cool. Like, you know, some of those awkward, like, all right, cool. And then maybe only a couple other Black people like actually work at the facility there, like held like a significant role. So my whole time there, of course I felt out of place, but I'm just thinking to myself, okay, if I feel like this, I know like this is a bigger problem. Like it's a bigger thing, right? And you feel it there, you know, as the only Black company, you're like, okay, were we accepted because we actually have a good product or just for optics, right? Like,
diversity.
You gotta have that. Yeah, you gotta have that. You know, one diverse, whatever. So, and then when we would have these meetings with these professionals, it was like, why? There was always something like that we were or weren't doing that wasn't conducive to their fund. And for me, I was like, okay, you know, people say, how'd you get into VC? I say, I don't think I chose VC. I think VC chose me. Just this like venture finance as a whole, whether it be angel investing, you know, we can get to that as well, or venture capital, whatever. It chose me because it hit all the what I wanted to accomplish, like personally. It checked off all those boxes, but then the opportunities that, you know, what those funds can do for a company like myself, or for your company, or for any other like underrepresented minority company is big. So what you see now is, of course, you're aware, like all these, you know, oh, we're gonna allocate, you know, 100 million to Black founders or 50 million or whatever the case may be. But like 4 or 5 years ago, this is where my head was at. I'm like, man, this is a problem. Like, so I always have to say that, you know, venture found me because now, you know, even though I'm still young, I'm able to make these connections with these founders, you know, where I was or where I am. Again, we'll talk about that as well. But, you know, I'm able to make these connections and, you know, help these companies, you know, and that's something that is needed. So that's really how I found a venture. And, you know, once, like my older sister, you know, she knew that I'm going to do my own thing eventually. So throughout that whole process, building out that company from the ground up, I knew that, okay, the next phase for me, like I'm always going to be entrepreneurship, that's always in me. So always investing in companies, starting companies, advising companies, whatever the case may be, I'm always going to be in that for life because it generally brings me joy. But I knew that the next phase of my career was going to be a venture. And you know, that's where I'm at now. So that's really how I got into venture capital.
So just to get back, I wanted to know, what did you go to school for?
Like my degrees.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So my degree was pre-med. So I have 2 degrees in biology and chemistry.
Okay, all right. So yeah, okay. And then you started this startup with your sister.
My older sister, correct? Yep.
Okay, and then like, is your sister still there?
Yeah, so the company's still. I personally, I just moved on. I just transitioned a couple of years ago. That she's still up and running the company. Okay. You know, she's telling me a couple of exciting things she has going on with it. So, yeah, it's still there.
Okay,
I'm just not there. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so like it's like, but you in the process of transitioning and everything. Okay, so like now you noticed the lack of Black people in this arena, like with the angel investors, the private equity, the venture capitalists. Like why do you think there's a lack of Black people, just from your observation?
Okay, from my observation, I'll say 2 things. The first thing that I want to talk about is the elephant in the, not elephant, it's not an elephant anymore. Venture capital is a boys club, was an old transparent, so old white boys club. You can date back VC or not even venture. You can date back these types of investments, whether it be crowdfunding or venture, back to the transatlantic slave trade,
Mm-hmm.
right? And to dive a little bit deeper into that, for example, like in Britain, slavery at a certain point was outlawed, right? The British abolitionist movement in regards to freeing the slaves and things of that sort. So, and I'm gonna use this as a prime example. So, America, there was a point in time where the United States was the only, not the only, but the only known visible country practicing slavery.
Okay.
It was like not taboo, but like every other major country, they abolished slavery. It was just the U.S. that was still practicing it up until you could even say they're still practicing it, but so what Venture did, how I can explain it the best way I could was you have these companies making these bets, or you can say, or making these investments into human capital. So how are these slaves like their productivity, things of that sort. So in Britain, so to bring it back, in Britain, it's quote unquote on face value, it's wrong to sell slaves and stuff like that. But behind closed doors, you can invest in certain companies who are involved in the transatlantic slave trade and reap those returns and reap those benefits that way. And that's a lot of stuff that people don't know, that all of these different assets and liabilities and financial models and stuff, it's not like it was just brand new created. We just reinvented the wheel. These types of practices, these types of things date back hundreds and hundreds of years ago. So just to kind of piggyback off of that, it's an old white man's club. Like, you ask any venture professional who doesn't look like me, like how hard it is to get into venture, they'll tell you hey, it's the equivalent of getting accepted into medical school, or one of these pre-professional programs, or getting struck by lightning, because it's just that competitive. And we can dive deeper into why it's that competitive, and think about it like this. We don't have those types of opportunities. So the second part is we don't know. We don't have those types of opportunities. We don't know people who look like us who are in these fields. I can ask you an honest question. I mean, I'm not sure about your age, but I know for sure, I mean, I could be wrong, but I know when you were 15, you didn't know what venture capital was. Am I right?
No, you're right. You're right.
I didn't know. You didn't know. But you have these, student. And I mean, hey, look, nepotism, there's nothing wrong with nepotism. I don't think there's anything. If you're qualified, there's nothing wrong with nepotism. But you have to think that there's these kids whose fathers, uncles have, these illustrious private equity, venture, angel firms. So they're exposed to that from a young age. So from their freshman year in college, they're interning at this firm. They're interning here. They're working with these startup companies on the operational side, providing assistance, resources, things of that sort. By the time they're done with undergrad, they've already sourced 10, 20 deals. They've already have done due diligence. They've already
Wow.
their portfolio or their resume is already stacked by the time they graduate, or by the time they're even in college. So we already are behind the eight ball just off of information. Now, when you make that determination, okay, I want to get into VC, you're still behind the ball, because you're not competing with people who have been doing this since they were 13, 14 years old, just doing some accounting for their uncle or their dad, or whether they're sitting in on meetings, things of that sort. So it's a very referral, and it's like a secret. Like, VC is one of those things where you'll never see a job post. Like, you'll never see a job posting for a firm, or it's just, oh, I know this person, we're hiring, we just raised another round of funding, we're trying to invest in, let's say, 20 companies over the course of this year, we need more assistance, so I know about this kid. Or it's a referral based kind of thing. So it's kind of one of those things where it's like once you're in what you're in, but getting in there, it's competitive. Like even though like I'm in, I'm still like, trying to make a name for myself, still trying to be accepted as you can say. But that's the truth, man. At least from what I see, like we're behind, and it's gonna take people like us to really change that.
It's something that you said where you're talking about like how like people were investing in like the slave trade. I was hearing because we were just talking about earn your leisure, and like I said, I just heard of there was one video I heard about them like a few weeks ago. One guy was talking about like Wall Street like really invested in slavery back then, and I didn't really think about that, and you were talking about that, which is kind of like an interesting fact to know. Like they're probably there's making bets on like I guess probably who will survive and just different things like that.
Of course. Let me ask you this. So let's expand on that because people think that it's proven that that's what was going on, but people think that that's not true. That wasn't true. So let me ask you this question right now, right? You know how lucrative the slave economy was. And the Civil War is a prime example of that. Once abolition, like once slavery was abolished, Abraham Lincoln, he's rewarded for freeing the slaves, but we all know he freed the slaves to directly impact the Southern economy.
Yes, I heard about that. Yeah.
Because once you impact that economy, you cannot fund a war. So think about how lucrative. I'm not going to get into. Because I'm not that knowledgeable about the numbers, but the slave economy built this country, built the South especially, but built this country. So think about how lucrative that was. So, I mean, if you see a great opportunity with a great return, why wouldn't you invest in it? Especially, I don't have to put up all the money. I can pull together 10 guys, and we can divvy up those costs. We all get 10% equity, whatever the case may be, and go on about our merry way, make these investments. It's been around, man. It's been around. It's just, again, a lot of things that we do, it wasn't just created out of thin air. We just reinvented the wheel. That's all it is.
Oh, that's real. And then another thing you're talking about, like you're saying, like they're doing accounting for their uncles or parents' businesses like at age like 15, 16. So they're getting experience. And like I remember, like I think like a couple years ago, like because I'm huge on like trading and investing. I went to this convention. It's called the Money Show, and I saw you would see a lot of like younger like they're like 16, 15-year-old kids, and some of them like were getting introduced to like trading options and different things at that age, and getting like money, like getting custodial accounts from their parents, where like by the time they graduate college, like honestly they don't even really need a job. No, it's just crazy.
There was to that point about the whole stocks thing. What's his name? But I used to watch a show called Wall Street Warriors like years back. I don't know if you ever watched that show, but like in the early 2000s, before the recession, there was this guy on there. Prime example, what you just said, his bar mitzvah money. He got like I think 10,000 or 20,000 from his bar. Maybe it was 50,000, and he turned that 50,000 into $1 million in the stock market.
Is that Tim Sykes?
Tim Sykes, there we go.
Yeah,
Tim Sykes, there we go. I was running a brain fart, but yeah, we don't have access like that, So all these kids, I mean, shout out to them, but it's like we're behind. So now it's up to us to change that,
Facts. So like, what do you think like we can do to like expose people to this arena? Like what are some of your thoughts?
So that's another loaded question, but I think so. Okay, we can break it off into tiers. So the first thing I wanted to talk about was the healthcare side, right? The healthcare aspect.
Yeah.
As Nigerians were all physicians, pharmacists, lawyers, all of those things, all prestigious careers, all. Yeah. And when you think business, how many times have you heard someone say, "Oh, I want to open up a private practice. Oh, I want to open up my own this," which is fine. Don't get me wrong. It's fine. Like if that's what you want to do, fine. But they don't. We're not as knowledgeable about the other side, about the technology that would drive that private practice, that would make that private practice more efficient. So to talk about that, again, I'm going to these accelerator programs, I'm going to these meetings, and like you come across people, who dropped out of med school, like they graduated med school, they didn't even go to residency, or they didn't even finish because they're like, fam, I don't like. I want to do this, but this is a lot more lucrative. Like I've met so many people who were in medical school pursuing their MD. They started a company, or they got recruited from a startup in Silicon Valley. Like, hey, look, you're doing amazing work. We'll pay you $350,000-$400,000 a year to come help us build our like start our company or whatever the case may be. Or, their second year in med school, they thought of an innovative tech software or something like that, and before they even graduate, they're already making generating like $15,000-$20,000 a month off of revenue because of their software. So for me being on that side, I really want to shed light, as most of the people who, like, especially Nigerians, but Black healthcare professionals, that enterprising and starting your own private practice, that is one way, but there are other ways that are a lot cheaper and that can scale a lot quicker for you to really make an impact and, of course, make a lot of money. And I think it's one of those things that, again, we weren't exposed to it. I've learned so much in like 4 or 5 years. I'm like, man, if I had known about this when I was like 14,
Yeah.
I feel like I would be, out of this world, but it is what it is. But it's like, you just don't know. So one of my things is like, every time I come across, physicians or colleagues or family members and I know that they're in these fields and they're talking to me about, oh, I want to do this, I want to open up my practice or whatever. I'm like, yeah, but did you know about, you can create software, you can start this, you can create an app, a platform, whatever. And they're like, yeah, but I didn't know that. I'm like, nah, man, like it's there. And if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it's fine. But at least you don't have a brick and mortar that's, you're not making any money on, or like, it's a lot of different nuances, but I definitely do try to, do that on the house side. And then on the venture capital side, I mean, you can talk to a few of my friends, or people in my inner circle. Like, I would say certain things in certain terms, like years ago, about angel investing, private equity, just to kind of expose them to it, and back then it's like, they would hear me say it, but it's like, they didn't really understand the mechanics of it. You fast forward to now and they'll tell you, they're like, yeah, man, like, I remember you talking about this stuff back in, 2016, 2017. I'm like, I mean, it's cool. Everybody has a learning curve, but it's just getting into that mindset of being receptive to information. But, me just, and people like me just raising awareness, like, hey, look, this is a class, or this is a field where, you can be however old and make a lot of money, and that in itself can expose you to a whole different world that you never even know was possible. So it's just that awareness, man. That's really it. It's just more people talking about it in the community, and it's happening. You see it, it's happening.
That's for sure.
A lot more funds are popping up. A lot more firms are making an effort to hire more diverse professionals. So, I mean, it's happening, but we have a ways to go. But it is happening now, finally.
No, it's true, but like, I mean, like, I guess, like, with you, like, being like a Nigerian American, probably first
Mm-hmm.
generation,
Mm-hmm.
like, your parents weren't thinking about that type of stuff, because
Of course.
back where they are, back at home, like, it was just like survival,
Mm-hmm.
or it was just like you said, like being like the doctor, but like the country wasn't as advanced, like you're saying,
Mm-hmm.
like it's only been like 60 years since the country's been independent. So it's a
Mm-hmm.
different mindset. So then when you're
Mm-hmm.
coming here and you living here, it exposes you to different things, where
Mm-hmm.
there are some people who are actually like doing those things and are actually taking it back,
Mm-hmm.
to like
Of
their
course.
countries and everything,
Yep.
which is dope.
Yep. Of course.
One question I wanted to ask you though was like, is there any like misconceptions that you would like to debunk when concerning like venture capitalism?
Um, Misconceptions. I wouldn't say one of the things that I come across is people they don't think that their company is appropriate for venture, and what I mean by that is like they're like, oh, I have a restaurant but I don't and I need funds. I know you have access to funds, like is this a good investment? Well, maybe not for my investment thesis, or maybe not for what my firm is working, like what my firm, like our target markets are. But there are firms that focus on food and beverage, or firms that focus on restaurants or whatever. So it's just from an entrepreneurial perspective, as long as your idea is scalable, and what I mean by scalable is like it's needed and there's a market for it, like a product market fit for it, and it can touch a lot of people. You just have to do your research and find specific funds that invest in your specific um, like market. So like a food and beverage company has no business at a fintech company, or a fintech firm has no business investing in a food and beverage company. Like that doesn't align. But there's probably firms that specialize in those things. So from an entrepreneurial side, it's just research, because um that's things that first time entrepreneurs, we don't really know. We didn't know, like I didn't know. Of course, it's learning curve. So just learning about different markets, learning about what that firm's investment thesis is, and then you can figure out and then learn about what stage they invest in companies, and then take it from there.
Now, another thing I was kind of curious about, okay, like say someone wanted to like they have this idea or are seeking funding for their company, like I mean, like do you guys like look at like credit and things like that?
So you essentially want to know like what will make a good investment? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
Okay. So Um, okay. So for me, like when I take meetings with founders, one of the things that I look at, or I guess a broad spectrum of things I look at, we can discuss is, okay, number one, I want to know if there's a product market fit for it. And all product market fit means, for people who don't know, is there a fit for is there this product that I have, is there a fit for it in the marketplace? Meaning, how many millions of people is going to be affected by this product? Meaning, in this industry, what is this like annually? Like, what value do I like? What kind of numbers are in this industry? Like, okay, for example, we'll talk about it, as we talk about my other company that I co-founded. But for example, the company I'm working on now, Blacklisted, there's over 30, I think over 33 million African Americans in the country,
Hmm.
and our annual spend is over $1.2 trillion, right? So right there, I just gave you two KPIs, two key performance indicators that say, hey, look, like, or not even KPIs. That was a bad use for it, but there's these two numbers right here. Okay, look, 33 million, 1.2 trillion. So there's that. You have the potential to touch this many people. You have the potential to capture this much capital, depending on how you operate your business, you operate your whatever that company is. So that product market fit is one thing that I look at. I look at the team. So as a founder, or as somebody like who's looking to invest, or do diligence for our company, we're going to invest however much that check is. I want to make sure that these founders are committed. I'm not saying quit your day job. We would like full time. We would prefer full time people who are in this, but we know with the economy things are tough. But I just want to make sure that you're committed into it. But then also, like, why? Like, what was your driving force behind starting the company? Like, why did you think that was a great idea? Did something traumatic happen? Did you identify a need for it? What was the mechanism behind it? What else? I guess, yeah, like scalability. Like, is this something that can scale? So like in healthcare, I come across, so one of my other roles, something that I do is I'm an entrepreneur in residence at one of the medical centers here in Dallas. And all that is essentially, I'm the like the expert in the digital health space, right? So what that role consists of is I pretty much help these physicians, faculty, postdocs, medical students, whatever, with their ideas, and help them like scale their ideas from the ideation phase all the way to the commercialization phase. And what you will come across a lot of times is these physicians, for example, they have an idea, but it only their product or that market that they're attacking only affects 10,000 citizens yearly, right? So or patients, I'll say. So that only happens to 10,000 patients. From a venture perspective, I'm like, okay, like what is the market for that? 10,000, maybe a couple million, a couple tens of million a year. It's a good idea, but it's not scalable because your ceiling is 10,000 patients per year. That's your ceiling. Your ceiling is, X amount of tens of millions. Most venture funds want a 10x plus return on their investment. It's I mean, it depends on what their what stage they invest in, but most. Sorry, go ahead.
No, just in case someone might not understand, like 10x plus, because you like elaborate.
Sure,
Like,
sure.
yeah.
So all that means is 10 times what I invested. So if you invest $100, I want $1,000, a thousand back, or like that. So they want a significant return. So it has to be scalable. What else? Traction, of course. Like, what kind of progress have you made? Like, where are you at right now? What was your Q2 revenue? Like, upwards trajectory. And you also don't even have to be revenue streaming yet. That's also another big misconception when it comes to investing in companies. A lot of companies that you see that have these billion-dollar valuations and all that stuff, they raise money before they even created a product or before they even created, like their service, whatever the case is. So I guess to kind of bring it together, I just want to know that, okay, you're doing everything in your power to make sure that you're successful. So positive traction, positive progress, and then like the outlook of the company, like where you see yourself in 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, and how you plan on getting there, and everything in between. Those are just some rough things that I look for. That we look for, but yeah.
Okay, I think you said something that was pretty interesting. A lot of people don't really know that, and I actually don't know that to that extent. But like when you talk about like raising funds even before you even really have the product, a lot of people think you have to have everything perfect and everything. So like that valuation of the company, hasn't been anything sold, nothing established, but it's just based off what's projected, correct?
Correct, exactly. So now there's pros and cons to that. This is just my opinion. You hear these companies raising like 10 million, 20, or maybe even like 2 million. So, okay, we can break it down like the different C stage. So like where my company is currently, like this new company I'm at right now, where we're at is pre-seed. So there's pre-seed, Series A, Series B, Series C. I mean, you can go however far you want, but pretty much Series A, Series B, Series C, and then like the exit, or the IPO. So exit meaning, or let's do IPO, for example. IPO, initial public offering. So you've put your company on the New York Stock Exchange. So now, like, people are you actually. So now, like that, like you went from having X amount of capital to now hopefully potential having raised, X amount of money from, investors like us. That's IPO. Then you have an exit, which is like an acquisition. So let's say, for example, you have a great software product, your revenue streaming. Let's say you're making, I don't know, 750,000 a year. That's good. That's I take that. I think anybody would take that. But Amazon comes in like, hey, we've been following you for the past 5 years. We want to acquire a company for, I said 750,000. We want to acquire a company for 35 million. Okay, so that's what an exit is. So just kind of explain those two like a little bit better.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what's up. That's definitely.
So okay. I'm sorry. So I kind of had a. So you were asking, like, you were kind of explaining or asking about, like, explaining about that, like how you can raise funds without having a product. So yeah. So theoretically, you can. You can raise money. You can. I mean, whatever you feel comfortable with, but you don't really need that much money. But it is possible. You need a business plan. Your pitch deck has to be on point. Your vision has to be on point. Like, when you have a conversation with people have to be able to, like, be engaged, be drawn, to your company. So, and it just has to make sense. So yeah, man, it's possible. Hold on. I'm going to turn on the light. I noticed that it's getting dark on my end. So let me just turn on the light real quick.
Okay.
Yeah. You edit this stuff out, right?
Huh?
Do you edit this stuff, or is it live?
I mean, I usually just keep it raw, but I can edit that part. That's not a problem. It doesn't even matter. People don't care, honestly.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. I mean, all right, but yeah. So it's possible, man. It's possible, and would I recommend it? It all depends on what you're comfortable with.
Okay. So no, that's really, like, because everyone's like, nowadays, like, people think you got to have everything. You have everything piece by piece by piece, and like there's something that you keep talking, you keep saying bootstrapping. Like, some people don't know what could you, like, elaborate what bootstrapping is?
Of course. So all bootstrapping is like, it's my money. Like, it's no private investment. Whether it's my money, my father's money, and it's a loan or like just helping me out, whatever. So all your expenses, everything is coming from you. So if you start a company, you're paying for everything. That's pretty much all that means. So that's what bootstrapping means. And yeah, that's what bootstrapping is, essentially.
Okay, now I wanted to, like, because I'm glad you, like, mentioned, like, your current project, with the co-founding of Blacklisted. Like, could you like talk about that a little more? Just explain to the people, like, what Blacklist is.
For sure. So Blacklisted, our slogan, we like to say, is shaping the culture, building a legacy more than a directory. And what that is the idea came from, just not being able to find Black-owned businesses. So to take it a couple of steps back, in 2016, I forgot what happened. So, of course, another Black man got killed by the police at the hands of the police officers. And there was, like, a major shift in, I don't know if you remember. Okay, I think was that the election year? I think it was when he got into office or whatever. But there was, like, a major shift, I think, and people actually started to understand the power of the Black dollar. So even back then, like, I had created, like, I mean, I was younger, but I didn't really have any direction or whatever. But I, started something called Potentially Black. And all that was to highlight Black entrepreneurs. So I created, like, a Facebook page, Instagram page, and I don't even know if they're active anymore. I doubt it. But all that is, like, I'd have interviews like how you and I are having now, but on the phone, ask questions, and I'd post about it just so people can see it, and just so people can know, like, yo, like, there's people doing amazing things, support them. So, or there's this restaurant down the street, like support them. You know what I mean? So this is years ago. Fast forward to last year. Fast forward to early 2019. One of my colleagues and our co-founder, we went to school together. He had called me. He's like, "Yo, I know you're like into the startup stuff. Like, I have this one of my homies hit me up about this idea, and we've been working on it for a couple of months. But we want like I think you'll be a great asset. We want you to come on as a co-founder." And they explained it to me. It's essentially just going to be like a directory for Black-owned businesses, which provided mapping systems. So if you open up the app, in your area, kind of like a Google Maps kind of thing, or like an Uber, not even an Uber, or like a Yelp kind of thing, where you can search for whatever you need, and you can find like the Black-owned business that satisfies that need. So that's like baseline. That's where it started. So to like how like Blacklisted. So that's essentially how Blacklisted came about. So I'm gonna shout them out. Our founder, CEO, RJ. He's doing he came up with the concept. He came up with the idea. And then Ed. He's another co-founder and the COO, Chief Operating Officer. And there's me, the co-founder and CFO. So that's how we started it. Like that's how our team came together. So what is Blacklisted? At baseline, we're connecting the Black consumer to the Black business owner at baseline. So we're gonna so the app you can say is for the directory, like so the Black-owned business directory. So you're able to locate Black-owned businesses in your area, and of course you'll be routed to that business. So like tremendous value, right? That was the plan. And I'm a transparent person, so we talk about we could talk about everything. So we were having some issues, and I think we have a question about startups and stuff like that. We were having some issues with our developer developing the app, and it just wasn't coming along how we liked. The time was taking too long. This is this year now. So I'm like, hey, I know we have our marketplace. I know that was in the pipeline, but it'll be easier and quicker to go to market with our marketplace first, and then we can develop the app, figure all that stuff out later. So I'll say like kind of mid-year, like in May or June, we kind of pivoted our approach. So instead of going to market with our app first, we're going to market with our marketplace. And essentially all that is companies. I mean, I don't want to say Amazon for Black-owned businesses, but companies, whatever product you're selling. So anything like if you have a shoe company, if you sell fashion, beauty, every single market where you can sell products, you can register your company on our platform, and then of course users can go to our platform and purchase products from these Black-owned businesses. So that's what we're going to market. Like we're actually pretty much wrapping up development and stuff like that with that now. We should be be on the lookout for that. That should be coming out within the next couple of weeks. But Blacklisted, we're doing a multitude of things. Not only are we helping these business owners, not only are we helping the consumer, but we're really trying to create that community, and we're really trying to create that ecosystem of Black entrepreneurs, Black business owners, and kind of create that community of, hey, look, if you want to start this, it's possible. If you want to get involved into this opportunity or this like sector, it's possible. And we're providing you all these different tools and resources necessary to succeed. So I mean, I can't talk too much about that, but like we're really revolutionizing the way, especially startup companies, but we're really revolutionizing the way businesses conduct business. And what you saw that happened with COVID, is, of course, the PPP loans, all these different grants and stuff that was, being allocated to, these dire companies that were failing. A lot of that capital did not go to Black-owned businesses. Of course, discrimination, things of that sort. But the reasoning that a lot of that money did not go to Black-owned businesses is because those businesses were not optimized to receive those funds. And what does that mean? What that means is their bookkeeping was bad. They didn't have the proper paperwork. They didn't have the proper, they didn't even have some of the stuff that was needed for the application in order for them to, receive those funds. And, there's statistics out there that like more than half of these Black-owned businesses are gone forever. They're not coming back strictly because they were not able to receive these funds or whatever the case may be. But that's a problem. That's a problem. And, that cannot happen again. So we're really, a lot of our different offerings is we're really, optimizing a lot of those different processes and helping these companies in more ways than one. Not only are we helping them increase visibility, not only are we helping them, potentially increase their revenue, not only are we creating users like you and I, like shop within our community and circulate our dollar within the community. Not only are we providing resources and tools for these businesses and companies to succeed, we're really just taking that extra step and providing or trying to provide really a 360 model for all these companies who are part of Blacklisted, and helping them and providing them with these tools to make sure that they succeed. So we're really tackling a lot of different verticals in our approach.
Now, I was thinking about something. Like I remember like Jay-Z, like he was talking about like building like an app like where to connect like Black businesses, and it's like almost kind of similar. And then I hear some people they're trying to like build apps so what makes yours like different from the others?
Yeah, so the beauty of this is one thing about me, right? Like we can all eat, like everybody can eat.
That's
like
right.
I mentioned, like I mentioned, there's over 32 million African Americans in this country alone. Our spend is there. You can say you're gonna get all that 33 million. It's not possible. It's I mean, you can try, but let's just be honest. Like, it's going to take a lot of work and years of work to get to that point. What that means is there's room for opportunity. So we have competitors like, Official Black Wall Street. I'm sure you heard of them. We Buy Black, like to name a few. But, again, one of the differences that kind of sets us apart from those companies is we're like a one-stop shop in all aspects for businesses, and also for users. Like when you come to our platform, when you hop on, like you're not going to want to leave. So we're really what separates us is, we're providing these businesses the necessary tools to succeed. We're providing users the necessary tools. If I want to get into, stocks, if I want to get into venture capital, if I want to learn about, how to get my credit score up, if I want to learn about just different things that cripple the Black community, that financial literacy, we're providing that as well. So we're tackling, we're tackling a lot of verticals that our competitors aren't really tackling, and which is fine. But I think that's what distinguishes us, and that's gonna essentially help us scale. And hopefully, the goal is to be recession proof. So that's kind of where we're heading, and I think that's what distinguishes us from our competitors.
Okay, no, I like there's something that you said, like, I mean, you could all eat, and I thought about like Pepsi and Coca-Cola, and like Wendy's and McDonald's. Like
you can go to the store, you can go to the grocery store. How many different brands of bread is there?
There's a lot of brands.
How many different brands of water? And it's like, especially with us, like in our community, we think that like because I'm doing it, you can't do it, because I don't look like I'm copying, or I'm not biting this person or whatever. I don't see it like that, because there's competition, of course, but I also believe that you can get places faster by working together but also like if this is an idea that has been proven, but they're doing something that I don't like and I see it's a problem, fix it. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? Fix it. And so we can all eat, man. We can all eat, and there's room and potential for everyone, you know?
No, that's definitely real.
Yeah.
So, like for this app, like say someone's trying to build an app, how much capital do you think that they would need to like bootstrap?
So okay. My advice for anybody who is starting a company is I don't want to necessarily say that you need X amount of money because it's 2020.
Okay.
So there's so many different avenues for you to get stuff done for free, or you can learn how to do it, or you can there's just so many different resources for you. Like there's this app called Bubble. It's called bubble.io, and you can build an app on there without knowing how to code. Like it provides all the templates for you and all that stuff, and you just pay a subscription. I mean, they have free subscriptions, but to actually like get the value of it, you're paying not that much money per month or a year, or whatever the case may be. But that's a very low. So somebody like myself, I don't know how to code. I'm not an engineer. I don't know anything about software or whatever, but I can go on there and essentially build an app from scratch, start a company and scale it. You know what I mean? So for let's say $50 a month, depending on how much the subscription is. So there's different ways that you need that you can start your company. But one of the biggest things that I will say is, so okay, if you want to put a figure, I'll say with 10 grand, you can do a lot of different things with that. You can hire, find somebody, whether it's here or overseas, to build your app or whatever the case, or your website, whatever it is. And then after that, because it's really just your product, right? So once the product is done, now you have to go to market for it, right? Mm-hmm. But so what I was getting at though is there's kind of ways that people can know about your business. So creating that brand equity, like all that is when people know about what my business is, or they hear the name, they should know what we do. They should know what I do. And there's so many different ways you can do it. You can do that. So we're in the social media era, digital marketing.
Yeah.
So Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube. You should really be on all those platforms, talking about your product, creating that brand awareness and then creating that brand equity. These are all things you can be doing even before you think about the idea, or even before you say, okay, I want to turn this into a company. I need X amount of money, whatever it's going to cost this much to pay this developer, whatever. But creating that brand equity, that's stuff that you should be doing even before you get to that, in my opinion, before you get to that point, because you want people to know who you are. And you want to create that community of, support and people to vouch for you and what you do. Mm-hmm. But yeah, like that number can really range. It depends on what you're trying to do, what you're trying to accomplish. If you're just trying to build a very, very basic site, you can go on Wix, you can go on GoDaddy, you can go on Squarespace and build something, remarkable, and put different buttons, and you're paying a subscription per month. I mean, of course you want to house all the data. Of course you want to control it. Of course you want to pay that overhead. But initially, when you first start off, that's a very, very cheap option. Yeah. So it really just depends on what you're comfortable with and what you're trying to do, and like how far you want it to go at that specific time.
Yeah, I think something that you really keep emphasizing is how like technology, the internet has really changed the game, where like money isn't the focus like what people think. Mm-hmm. Correct me if that's wrong. Is that what you're saying though?
Like what do you mean by that?
Like where some people are focusing on like, okay, well, I need this money to start this. Like with the internet, like you don't necessarily need that money per se. You can become resourceful. You can get resources, get access to different things. Or if you don't have the money, like what you say, if you have the branding, you can get access to different capital. If you have this, you can get access to different things.
Of course, yeah, man. Like money, in my opinion, money should never be an excuse to get something started. Like something like this, like starting a company, to an extent, yes, that's true. Money is, you're gonna need money, but to get started, you don't need money to make a business plan. You don't need money to create a pitch deck. You don't need money to, start putting out content on all these social media platforms. You don't need money for that type of stuff. I mean, yes, you're going to, but starting out, you can really hit the ground running and do a lot without capital before capital is needed. And again, like I mentioned, it all depends on what you want, and it all depends on, like how far you want to take it at that specific time to really figure out, okay, how much money am I going to need? If you were to ask me right now, okay, a standard, app or company, whatever you want to start, I can't really give a definitive number because it varies.
Okay.
So,
That makes sense. Another question, like, because you're talking about like, okay, when with your company, some people like try to find investors. Like you've seen the like Shark Tank,
of course,
just
of
different
course.
things, and then like some people are trying to bootstrap. What
Mhm.
do you think are the like? What are some of the reasons why you would prefer bootstrapping compared to getting investors, acquiring investors immediately?
So advantages, I'll say, is number one, control. Obviously, once you receive investment, you no longer own 100% of that company. So you say, for example, if I give you 250,000 for 15% or however much percent, I now have a say, theoretically, I have a say in what you do. So a lot of times, at least for me, it's not about the money. It is, but it isn't. It's more so, where's that money coming from and what can I do with it? So if for example, one of my older cousins, his name is Martin. He's very, like in the entrepreneurial, like business side, but he has so many different connections with you know, like in the entertainment, like BT, um, sports, things of that. Wait, hello? Oh, okay. You kind of cut off, but like he has so many connections, right? Now that could he has that brand equity and so many different markets that can really help a company scale, right? If he had a check for 50,000 for me, and then a VC firm who has an investment thesis or whatever, they invest in X types of startups. That's their portfolio. This is their board. Cool, cool, cool. And they're giving me 150,000 or 100,000. It's a lot. It's more money, but I'm taking his money. The reason why I'm taking his money is because I can do more with him, and that relationship, it's more than the money. Like that person is bringing more value. So they're bringing that, I can get you into these doors. I can make these introductions for you. I can help you with this. I can help you with that. That's important when it comes to when you want to raise money, like where that money is coming from. It's nice, to raise money, X amount of millions, but to me, it's more than the money. Now, bootstrapping, of course, you don't have all that capital, but you have that control. So with bootstrapping, whenever I come across founders who have a product and they're like, oh, I need 200, I need 100,000 to do this. Now, first thing I'm like, where'd you get that number from? You know what I mean? Like, where'd you get that number from? Like, did so that's the first thing. But the second thing is like, you don't really need all of that capital to say what you're trying to do. You know what I mean? Like, you just need maybe 10 or 15 to get you started. And then, you could, as time goes on, we could, evaluate and see how it goes. So I always encourage companies, like, if you can, bootstrap as long as possible. Bootstrap as long as possible. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you're paying for everything. There's so many different resources, so many different, like, grants. So the, a lot of people don't know the government literally puts aside billions of dollars to give companies, like, to like, for grants, to give these grants to these companies tackling these different verticals. So it's called the STTR or SBIR, and you can go on that platform or grants.gov and literally find this grant up to $1 million, or this grant up to 10,000, or this grant up to 1,500, whatever, and apply for as many grants as possible. The worst I can say is no. But grants, that's an option. There's so many different accelerator programs. There's so many different opportunities where you can attend these accelerators, and if you're accepted, they'll either give you seed funding. So there's programs where that accelerator will take 2%, 3%, 10%, however much equity from the company for that funding, in exchange for that funding. There's some that they say, hey, look, out of good faith, you're a promising company. Here's 10K, here's 20K, here's 30K, or whatever the number is. There's pitch competitions. You can apply for pitch competitions in your area or wherever worldwide, and win lump sum equity free cash, like cold hard cash, like free money. So bootstrapping doesn't necessarily mean that I'm paying for everything. It just necessarily means that I'm not getting outside funding, but there's still avenues for you to get that capital and for you to, not like offset those costs.
That makes
You know?
sense. That really like illuminates and expands on like what bootstrapping is, because a lot of people might start thinking like bootstrapping, oh, you're just using all your money, and then a lot
Yeah.
of people might be thinking, oh, I need to go and get funded by these big investors,
Mm-hmm.
and then and by doing that, that kind of like you said, that control, the autonomy,
Mm-hmm.
and all that stuff. It's
Mm-hmm.
huge. It's very huge.
The reality is, once you get, and again, I mean, I'm in this space, so of course, I'm not going to badmouth it or whatever, but once you take money from somebody else and they now have, equity in your company, so that they now have some part ownership of that company, theoretically, depending on how that agreement is worked out, so there's firms, there's venture firms now, for example, or angels, whatever. There's firms that not only do they invest capital, but they have like management teams tailored specifically to like be like a manager, be like a board member, whatever, on that in that company. So to make sure that they're doing what they have to do, which is fine, but it's like that can get complex, it can get intricate, like, very, very fast if you're not, you know, moving at the pace that the firm wants you to move. So that's just one thing that's the only thing I'll say with that. So with that, I'm like, okay, your idea is great. You have the capability to scale. You have genuine traction. You have organic reach and organic following. Prove your concept out first. That proof of concept. Make sure it works. Um, Make some money, generate some revenue first. See what's working, what doesn't work, before you like try to seek the outside funding, because once you do, you know, you have to perform. You should be able to perform. It's nothing bad. It's just like the reality. Like, once you get that $1 million check, that where's this money going? I need to make sure that it's safe. It's a safe investment. So
Okay. No, that's huge. Like really. One of my question, that was any suggestions that you would have for people, trying to start these type of projects?
like a startup.
Yeah, like startup, like through tech, through
Mm-hmm.
like healthcare, anything like that.
Any advice? What I'll say is, just be passionate. I think when you're passionate about something, everything else kind of will fall into place. And once you pray on it, you ask God for guidance, like, hey, this is what I want to do. you're passionate about something, opportunities, like the world will shift and opportunities will present itself, but you're ready, because you're passionate about it, which means you're going to work hard, you're going to put the work in, you're going to do everything in your power to make sure that it succeeds and it's successful. Um, and then just having, a solid team. I think that's very, very important. Like, again, it's cool to do stuff by yourself, but I firmly believe that you can get places faster with people who share your common interests, who share, some of the same ideologies. You can get places faster. So having, like a solid team, and then, just being organized, being prepared. Um, yeah, I'm getting kind of cookie cutter answers, but it's true. Um, just making sure that you have everything that's needed, um, like resource wise, making sure you have your pitch decks, making sure you have your business plan, make sure that's up to par, making sure that your brand ambassador program is up to par, making sure that everything you're saying you can do, you have a plan for, and you've thought about it, you've worked it all out. Those are just some basic things, because you can start a company out of anything, literally out of anything, in tech especially. Like, tech is everywhere,
It's
so
huge.
just once you're passionate, in my opinion, once you're passionate about what you're doing, all those other things are going to fall into place. If it's just a money grab, I mean, that's fine. People motivated about money. I'm not going to say don't get your money, but just be passionate. You know what I mean? And I feel like if you're passionate, if you've talked to God about it, everything else will fall into play.
Dope. It's not like any last words that you want to like share before we close.
Nah, man. Again, I'm just, thank you for having me. And, I guess, yeah, man, I'm just thankful. I'm grateful for the opportunity. And, hopefully, we meet, and, I'll see you, in the pipeline. So I appreciate it,
Oh,
for
for
sure.
sure. Also, with Blacklisted, is there any social media, any websites right now, or?
Oh yeah, so you can follow us on Instagram at BLK listed, LISTED app, um, and then on Twitter as well. Same thing, BLK listed app. So you can follow us there. And then, I mean, if you want to follow me on the socials, on Instagram, you can follow me at, it's just my name. So Anthony OBIJR. All it's one word. Um, yeah, man. So that's it. That's, you can follow us, and just follow our journey, man. Follow our journey, and we have a lot of exciting things coming. So we're excited about it.
Dope, man. It was awesome. Like, I look forward to having you back later, though. Seriously.
For sure, for
Yeah.
sure. Give you kind of a update.
Yeah, for
A
sure.
update. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, man. Let me hold on. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks.
For sure, for sure.